From the studios of Farm Journal Broadcast, this is AgDay.
A timeless tradition.
I wanted to start something for the family, just a little small farm, a little small plot.
How one man's dream turned his farm into a major spot for making Christmas magic. An Alabama woman has a gene-altered pig to thank for giving her a new lease on life. As we learn more about the aid coming to farmers in the new continuing resolution.
So it's a big win.
When could farmers see it, and how will it be calculated? Right now on AgDay.
AgDay is brought to you by Pioneer. Pioneer brand corn is part of a winning team that includes deep local knowledge and on-farm support. Pioneer brand corn, your best year starts here.
Good morning, I'm Clinton Griffiths. We're learning more about a continuing resolution that will help avoid a government shutdown this weekend. The stopgap plan has bipartisan support in both chambers. It moves the funding deadline from tomorrow to March 14th. And as we first told you yesterday, there are several key provisions that will directly impact farmers. Now, the bill includes $10 billion in farmer financial aid, $21 billion in ag disaster aid for farmers and ranchers, including $2 billion of that set aside for livestock producers impacted by disasters, which is part of an overall $100.4 billion disaster aid package. Now, there's also an extension of the 2018 Farm Bill without an increase in reference prices and a provision for year-round E15.
This shows the muscle of the ag sector, not only farm state lawmakers, but commodity and farm groups and also agricultural bankers. Actually, ag bankers were the first ones early this year, Tyne, to tell farm state lawmakers that some of the working capital drain that was going on, especially in the crops area around the United States. Then we have the disasters come in. It took some commodity and farm groups a little time, but once they were told basically by G.T. Thompson, House Ag Committee Chairman, to put up the heat and urge lawmakers to include it, they did. So it's a big win.
So how is the aid to farmers being calculated and how will it be handed out? Farm CPA Paul Neiffer looking into it for us. He says it would come in the form of direct payments. He says the potential payments are about half of what was originally proposed in the Farm Act.
My estimate of the corn payment, and again, this could be based on rounding, you know, how I'm rounding it and how USDA rounds it, is right now the corn payment is approximately $44 per acre. I'm calculating it at $43.80. Again, that's could be 44, could be 43, could be 45, you know, somewhere in there. And then on soybeans, it's about $31 per acre. And then for like your peanuts and rice and cotton, they're going to get higher payments.
Now, Neiffer notes there is a payment limit of $125,000, which is down from the $175,000 originally proposed in the Farm Act. But it's key to note, with the updated relief, if 75% of your total gross income is from farming, including wages and interest and dividends, then you qualify for the double payment. It's believed the payments will be sent out to producers 90 days after it's enacted. As we said, the bill also contains a provision to have E15 sales year-round. E15 sales were previously restricted to summer months only, but 8 Midwestern states announced year-round sales earlier this year. The inclusion of E15 in the bill is seen as a major win for ethanol producers and others who have spent years lobbying for year-round sales, with ethanol groups saying the legislative change could pave the way for retailers to more widely offer the high ethanol fuel blend.
Longer term, it really depends on infrastructure. There's no question about it. I mean, blender pumps up and down the East Coast are, you know, they just don't exist. I mean, because most of the retail gas stations on the East Coast just don't have the space nor the money to add a pump and an extra tank and, you know, all sorts of stuff. There are ways to do it, but it would cost some money for sure. The first thing you'd have to do is you'd have to put blender pumps in, and that's a pretty expensive ask at the moment.
The additional ethanol consumption from year-round E15 sales is estimated to be about 15 million gallons, which would translate to an additional corn use of about 5.6 million bushels. More snow is pushing across the upper Midwest and Great Lakes today. Meteorologist Jack Van Meter has an update for us.
We are watching for the potential for some light snow. We're talking a dusting, maybe an inch or two for much of the heartland and of course Midwest. And actually it's a Alberta Clipper system. It's actually slowly but surely moving through Minnesota now. As I put this in motion, can't say moving through the Great Lakes region, but what it's actually going to do is after it actually moves out of much of the Midwest, it's actually going to start to get together with another center of low pressure out in the Atlantic Ocean. And as we can see, going to do that and actually intensify up into the northeast, where it's actually going to be producing a lot of snow out there. That being said, for those areas affected, we're talking all the way from the Dakotas all the way down to right around Indiana. We're looking at a dusting of snow, not a lot whatsoever. We're talking maybe 1 inch to maybe 3 inches at the absolute most. And here's a look at some of that snow that fell in northern Iowa. Looks like less than an inch of snow at the time, but just enough to make the roads a little slick in the Ames area. I'll have more in your forecast coming up.
The CDC is confirming a person is hospitalized with a severe case of avian flu in Louisiana. Now, health officials say this marks the first time there's been a severe illness linked to H5N1 here in the U.S. They say the case was confirmed last Friday. They report while the source of the infection is ongoing, it was determined the patient had exposure to sick and dead birds in backyard flocks. They add no person-to-person spread of the virus has been detected, and they continue to say the risk to the general public remains low. As for the testing for H5N1 in dairy, APHIS is announcing a second round of states coming on board as part of its national milk testing strategy. It requires that raw, unpasteurized milk samples nationwide be collected and shared with USDA for testing for the virus. Indiana, Maryland, Montana, New York, Ohio, Vermont, and Washington State are now coming on board, which will mean 13 states will be taking part in the program. The agency expects this week to receive results from the first round of sampling. For the third time, a person has received a gene-edited pig kidney. Doctors at NYU Langone Health announcing a 53-year-old Alabama woman received the pig kidney last month. Tawana Looney had previously donated a kidney to her mother, but she faced near impossible odds of finding a human organ due to high antibody levels. Now, the surgery is allowing her to avoid dialysis for the first time in 8 years. The kidney, which was provided by Revicor, a company we've told you about, included 10 genetic edits to reduce rejections. Doctors say she's recovering well. Cotton continued to see losses on Wednesday. We'll talk about that coming up in Markets Now. And later, we're off to Georgia for the holiday season. Visit a family farm focused on providing the perfect Christmas tree today in the country.
AgDay is brought to you by Germinator Closing Wheels. Germinator Closing Wheels provide quicker emergence and are more consistent in dry conditions than any other closing wheels. Order 12 to 16 rows today and qualify for free shipping or 20% off an end zone moisture management package.
A new snapshot of Iowa farmland values is showing a decline for the first time in 5 years. The annual Land Value Survey from Iowa State University shows farmland prices in the state dropped more than 3% this year, with the statewide average value down $369 to $11,467 per acre. Now, high-quality land is down 2.6% to just under $14,000 an acre. Medium quality is down 3% to just over $10,700 per acre, and low quality land down 2.8% to just under $7,500 an acre. Now, surveyors say 8 of the 9 crop reporting districts saw declines, with the West Central District leading the drop at 7.4%. Despite this year's decline, average values remain higher than the peak reached back in 2022. Cotton prices have been struggling as of late. Is there better news on the horizon? AgDay's Michelle Rook discusses it with Alan Brugler in Markets Now.
Joining us with market analysis, Ellen Brugler with A&N Economics. And let's talk about this cotton market coming out of the WASDE report. We did see actually an increase in production and ending stocks, did we not?
Yeah, USDA keeps changing the yield numbers as they get more Jennings data. That'll continue for several more months here. The most recent data suggested yields were a little bit higher, so they bumped up the production in this December report. And they ended up having to bump up the ending stocks, 100,000 bales as a result of that. So now we're at 4.4 million bales for projected ending stocks. That's not that far off from 2 years ago, but it is a bigger pile than we had a year ago. So the market's having to deal with, extra supply, if you will. Exports, they didn't do anything with.
And global stocks have actually increased as well, have they not?
Global stocks are running about 2 million bales higher than they were 2 years ago. So you've got some competition out there. Brazilian production is really increased. Australia is a competitor as well. And the big bogeyman, if you will, is actually synthetic fiber.
So what does all of this mean for the longer term price objectives or outlook?
Number one, our cost of production is not in a good place here. I've seen some numbers, $850 to $900 an acre for cotton. That doesn't pencil with low 70s futures prices and then taking basis off of that. So if the board stays where it is, you're probably going to see some reduced cotton acreage next year, trying to right size that supply to the demand. I think chart wise, we're trying to put in a base here between 65 and 70 cents. We've got mostly sideways action. I believe the ADX, the directional index, has dropped off quite a bit, which suggests a sideways instead of more down component.
All right, thanks so much for joining us. Ellen Brugler, A&N Economics, and we'll have more AgDay coming up.
Let's go ahead and actually time out the amount of snow, again, that we will be seeing from this system. Again, we're not looking at very impressive amounts of snowfall whatsoever. As we play this in motion, we can't see the exact track of this system. This is on Friday. Again, as we can see, it's a very slow moving system. And again, really not going to be depositing all that much in snow. We can see that in Wisconsin and a little bit of western Michigan, they're going to be seeing right around 3 inches of snow. And actually, some of the snow is actually going to be translated into lake effect snow as this system slowly but surely moves through and switches the winds in the absolute right direction for each Great Lake. We can see out in Rochester, New York, they're actually going to be getting some lake effect snow as well as that system moves off into the Atlantic Ocean. As for temperatures today, pretty mild again in much of the United States, mild/average, which is good news. But we can see that polar and more Arctic air is moving into the U.S. And why is that? Well, of course, it's going to be that little clipper system is just going to move the jet stream a little bit. We can see tomorrow morning, again, very cold Minneapolis at 2 degrees in the morning, 32 degrees at Dallas, right at the freezing mark. As we can see, Chicago at 17 degrees. So again, cooler temperatures are really going to be moving in. This is tomorrow afternoon. Real big dip and real noticeable dip in those high temperatures. As we can see, Chicago only getting to 34 degrees and Minneapolis again only getting to 18 degrees. Good news, if you don't like the cold weather, that warmer weather is going to be on the backside of this system. And actually for Christmas, most, if not everybody, pretty much going to be seeing a white Christmas. Rugby, North Dakota, 8 degrees and a low of -10 degrees. Cold. Marion, Ohio, 34 degrees, low of just 30 degrees. And finally, Clarksdale, Mississippi, 51 degrees, low of 38 degrees.
A well-known retailer in the U.S. is looking to expand sales of U.S. beef and pork to food services in Mexico. Costco, working with the U.S. Meat Export Federation, USDA, the Beef Checkoff Program, and the National Pork Board, it's training Costco's sales staff on the needs of restaurants and resort chefs in Mexico.
Costco is a very important partner for USMEF because they only carry US beef and pork. So when people go to their stores, they know they will find this very high quality and consistent product that they are looking for. And that's exactly what US beef and pork provide. They have points of sale all over the country.
The U.S. Meat Export Federation even trained the Costco sales force as to the best cooking methods for each cut of meat and also the kind of equipment in restaurants and hotels that can be used to prepare it. Livestock producers face big decisions about replacement heifers every year, and there's a new tool to help ranchers evaluate whether it's time to buy, sell, or trade. The University of Nebraska has created an annual beef cow replacement value forecasting tool. Now, according to the people behind it, the information can be modified to fit each producer, depending on their circumstances and expectations when it comes to future productivity, costs, and revenues. The Nebraska Beef Economics team has also created a table that shows the break-even values for beef cow replacements based on annual production costs and replacement rates. To check out all of this information, head over to drovers.com and take a look at the story. Hey, if you love a real Christmas tree, there's still time to get one. And we'll visit a tree farm in Georgia next as they spread some holiday cheer in the country.
Ag Day is brought to you by Pivot Bio. Protect yield potential with a new mode of action in nitrogen. See how Pivot Bio fits into your fertility plan at talknitrogen.com.
One man's passion to celebrate the holidays with real Christmas trees has now blossomed into a thriving holiday tradition. John Holcomb with the Georgia Farm Monitor takes us to Bartow County, where the spirit of Christmas is alive and thriving at one family Christmas tree farm.
This Christmas season, as many families are embracing their timeless traditions, the Moss family are embracing their own, running this Christmas tree farm, a tradition that was started by a simple desire to have a real Christmas tree a decade ago.
On Christmas Day, I decided, I was sitting there looking at my tree, what was left of it, and decided I wanted to start something for the family, just a little small farm, a little small plot. So I cleared a little bitty spot on the property here and planted about 10 to 15 trees, just trying to see which ones that liked the ground, the soil, and all that stuff. Before the next year, about 40 of my friends said, well, we would like to have a tree as well. So we started the process.
From there, it definitely was a learning experience, as Moss found out fairly quickly that growing Christmas trees isn't as simple as he thought, and ended up bush hogging them down after the first year.
I started planting all these different varieties of trees because I had always grew up knowing the Fraser fir, the pine trees. I planted all of them that first year. And out of the 700 trees I planted, all of the North Carolina species died because unfortunately we can't grow those here. So I actually went through with a bush hog and cut everything down and kind of restarted.
However, as you can tell, Moss decided to regroup and restart, and now grows beautiful picturesque trees that are sought after by families from near and far, with news traveling by word of mouth.
Really 95%, if not more, are customers that are returning and bringing friends or telling their neighbor about our trees and where to go and actually get to experience this. There's quite a few farms around, but many people could live next door and never know it was there. Many people just find us through their friends, honestly. That's our pretty much our marketing campaign is, hey, tell your family, come out to see Moss Family Tree Farm.
Of course, growing and managing an operation like this one isn't a task for the faint of heart, but Moss reassures me that all of the hard work is worth it in the end, as they work all year to sell memories, not a product.
We sell memories. We don't sell Christmas trees. The Christmas trees are something that you get here. While you're here, you hear kids laughing, families smiling, children running around the bounce houses, just seeing things that many of them have never seen before in their life. Yes, it is hard work, but those things make every bit of it worth it. Just seeing the smiles on kids' faces, the wonder, the awe, and the families and the parents as well.
Reporting in Adairsville for the Farm Monitor, I'm John Holcomb.
And our thanks to John Holcomb and the Georgia Farm Monitor for sharing that story with us. And that's all the time we have this morning. We're sure glad you tuned in. From all of us here at AgDay, I'm Clinton Griffiths. Have a great day on the farm.